6:21 p.m. Roll call, please.
President Polito.
Present.
Vice President Wilson, it's not here yet. Trustee Fitch.
Here.
Trustee Shabomihi.
Here.
Trustee
Hello.
Wilson.
Yeah, sorry I'm late.
No worries.
And it looks like Trustee Guyona is present.
Yep, she just came.
All right, awesome. That means we have 5 members here. A quorum is present, so we can move right into the item. Superintendent Sidaria.
Yeah, so on the consent agenda before you, we would like the board to consider approving an MOU with the People's Music School.
All right, are there any questions or comments from the board on this kind of emergency item that we kind of had to add at the last minute?
Right, and as I shared with President Polito, we came to a consensus on the MOU, and we wanted to make sure that we were able to move forward so that we can initiate the professional development that we would like to start as soon as possible. And again, this will help with the turnaround arts and then support the other 2 elementary schools with our music program.
Yes, thank you for that. All right, if there are no questions or no objections, I will
I
entertain.
actually have a
Yeah.
couple of questions, sorry. My first question is how, it talked about doing this immediately so that they could launch into professional development. And my question is this like okay with the teachers union, or isn't there supposed to be some procedure for professional development?
No, actually, not with the professional development. We can move forward.
Okay, and they'll
I
be
got the
prepared
consensus
to,
from.
I was just thinking that, putting this on them at the last minute, but no, okay.
No, we actually have been, this has been a conversation in the spring through the summer. And more importantly, the Turnaround Arts team at Costany wants to move forward with the program as well so that we can bring in guest artists and help with the integration of the arts through the regular instructional day.
Right, because that was my other question. How's it tie into the turnaround arts? And I noticed that it also said instruments. Okay, that they would provide instruments as well. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay. So those were my only questions.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, I can
Nelly.
be.
Okay, the agenda wasn't approved.
Oh,
What do you mean that
Really?
it wasn't approved?
From the roll call, they started, Gina started talking about the consent agenda, but they did not approve the agenda yet.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All right, roll call, please.
President Polito,
Aye.
Vice President Wilson,
Aye.
Trustee Fitch,
Aye.
Trustee Guyona,
Aye.
Trustee Shabomihi.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 5-0. Thank you. So Trustee Wilson, I think you were the one that was speaking.
Right, so thank you. So those were my only questions. I wanted to make sure that it's tied into
Excuse
the
me.
turnaround.
So they need to pull the item from the consent agenda and put it in the regular order because they have questions about it.
So she's speaking on consent agenda. We can have speakers of consent agenda when it's a specific item and there's multiple items. That's when you need to pull it. There's only one item
There's
though.
only one item, right?
Okay.
So we're fine. Thank you, Nelly.
Okay, so anyway, I think I'm pretty much finished. I just wanted to make sure it was tied into turnaround arts and that it wasn't a surprise to the teachers to get professional development in this way as quickly. So I'm good.
Okay. Anyone else? All righty, then I will entertain a motion to approve item 3, which is the consent agenda.
And I will make that motion that we approve item 3.
Okay, roll call, please.
President Polito,
Aye.
Vice President Wilson,
Aye.
Trustee Fitch,
Aye.
Trustee Guyona,
Aye.
Trustee Shabomihi.
Aye.
All right, motion carries 5-0. That is the only thing on our agenda. So we will adjourn the special session at 6:26 p.m. We are now on a break until 6:30. So thank you, everyone.
Okay, see you then.
Hopefully everyone didn't go too far. Okay, Solomon, looks like our board members are back.
I don't see Trustee Guiona Mendoza. She's not in the other meeting. But you have a quorum.
All right, so let's start. I will open the regular session of the Ravenswood City School District Board of Trustees meeting of August 27th at 6:31 PM. Roll call, please.
President Polito,
Present.
Vice President Wilson,
Sorry, here.
Trustee Fitch,
Here.
Trustee Guyona,
Here.
Trustee Shibomihi.
Here.
Great, a quorum is present, so we will continue to the approval of the agenda. Are there any changes to the agenda?
So through the chair, the only change I would like to pull, the turnaround arts. What is that one? 7M,
7M as in Mary.
correct. Oh, yeah, and 7I, only because I can't vote on that one.
Okay,
Is that seven, excuse me, through the chair, is that 7I or 7H? You talking about the one with one EPA?
Yeah, I have it as 7I. Is there another agenda?
yeah, it's
Okay.
7H in this
Whatever.
version. Okay, so let's make sure the other letter is correct. You said it was for which contract?
The other one I thought was M. That's the MOU with the turnaround arts.
It's L, so we're gonna
Oh,
pull
geez.
7H
Okay.
and 7L.
Thank you.
All right, is anyone else wanting to pull any other items? Okay, I'm going to pull item. I really do need glasses. 7A1. And if that is all, I will entertain
I
a
want to pull something. I want to pull out the new position, please, for the operation. Sorry, I don't have the paper right in front of me.
That's 7A1.
Yes, the new one. New
Yes.
position. Thank you.
I'll entertain a motion with those changes.
So through the chair, I'll make the motion that we approve of the agenda with the modifications.
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
President Polito,
Aye.
Vice President Wilson,
Aye.
Trustee Fitch,
Aye.
Trustee Guyona,
We can't hear you, Trustee Gona, actually, or see you.
I.
Okay.
I. Thank you. I'm on my way home, so I'm driving, and I don't want to be, touching a lot. So I am
Sure.
stopping the video. As soon as I make it home, I'll put it back on the camera. Thank you.
Thank you
But
for
I'm
letting us know.
listening. I'm here. Okay. But I
Okay.
can't be touching too much, so I can do a safe driving. Thank you.
Trustee Shibomihi.
Aye.
All right, motion carries 5-0. So before we go into closed session, are there any speakers?
If you'd like to speak, please raise your hand in Zoom.
This would be speakers on closed session matters only.
There are no hands raised.
There are no hands raised. All right, so we will move into closed session and resume at approximately 7:15 PM. Thank you.
David, I'm about to text you something for translation that I'm going to put in the chat for when we come back. Can you translate it for me and send it back by text? I'm going to text your cell phone, okay? Welcome back.
Hi, Solomon.
One, two, three. We're missing Anna, I think. Let me see if she's here.
I'm here.
Ah. There you are.
All right, so we're all here. So we will return to open session at 7:16 p.m. Changes to the agenda were items 7A1 was pulled, and items 7H and 7L was also pulled from the consent agenda. During closed session, item 3A discussion was held, and item 3 report and update was given. Discussion was also held. So that will take us to item 5, the approval of the minutes of the special board meeting of August 13th. Are there any questions or comments about those minutes? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve them.
Hello, I will make a motion to
Oh,
approve.
good.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes item 5A from August 13th, 2020.
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
President Polito,
Aye.
Vice President Wilson,
Aye.
Trustee Fitch,
Aye.
Trustee Guyona,
Aye.
Trustee Shibomihin.
Aye.
All right, motion carries 5-0. That will take us to item 6 from the floor. Do we have any speakers?
If you want to speak, please, from the floor, please raise your hand. Please raise your hand. If you're calling in by phone, you can push number 9 to raise your hand to speak. Maybe give it a few more seconds, but no one is raising their hand.
Okay, I also wanted to know for our Spanish speaking folk, if you're tuning in and you prefer to listen to this meeting in Spanish, on the bottom toolbar of the screen, there is an interpretation icon. Please click on it and click Spanish, select Spanish. Para cualquier persona que está escuchándonos esta noche y quisiera escuchar este junta en español, pueden oprimir el símbolo que está debajo de la pantalla que dice interpretación y escogen español y pueden oír la junta en español con traducción.
No hands are raised.
Thank you. All right, so we will move to consent agenda. We already were able to discuss 7A1, so we will move to 7H and 711. Trustee Wilson.
Thank you. So 7H, I have to recluse myself because I do some consulting for One East Palo Alto.
Thank you for letting us know.
You're welcome.
And then 7L?
Oh, 7L, just because I would like to get or have the staff provide an opportunity to explain more of what the turnaround school is about.
Definitely. Thank you for the opportunity. Actually, our principal, Robin Pang-Maganetis, is here from Costany School of the Arts, and she has a quick statement to be able to share with the Board of Trustees. And if Solomon can allow her, oh, there she is.
You can speak, Robin.
Okay, so the mission of the Turnaround Arts is to dramatically improve the quality of education that underserved children have received, and they intend to do that through the arts. And one of my most favorite quotes is from actually Michelle Obama, who was a major advocate and continues to be a major advocate for Turnaround Arts. She says, "Arts education isn't something that we add on after we've achieved other priorities like test scores and getting kids into college. Rather, arts is critical for achieving those priorities in the first place." And that's what the Turnaround Arts program is all about. And what Turnaround Arts did in 2015 was conducted a study to see their impact on the schools and the children that they serve. And what they found was that there was a significant improvement in academic achievement, reduction in discipline, and increased attendance once schools began a full integration of the arts.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robin.
Thank you very much. All right. So I think we'll move backwards with
No,
the
uh,
item.
Miss-
Oh.
no, sorry to disrupt. Aren't we, since I pull out the item for 781, don't we get to discuss it?
We did discuss it in closed session.
Oh, but the reason I pull it out is to discuss it in public. I never meant.
You can discuss it in public, but you can't talk about personnel related information in public. So you can say comment on it, but
Okay, I would like to make a comment on it then.
okay. So let us finish with this item and then we'll
Yeah,
get to that.
don't forget about it. Thank you.
I won't. All right. So thank you, Robin, again. And Trustee Wilson, I don't know if
Yeah, so this was my item. I actually was going to extend an invitation to the superintendent who was at that school for the longest time to share some also a little bit of background.
Yeah, we actually at Costany School initiated the Turnaround Art School. Oh my goodness, it's been a couple of years. Angela Karamian, who was the art teacher, came across the grant, and we were able to be awarded. And I myself had an opportunity to go to Washington, D.C. I wish I had a chance to personally meet Michelle Obama, but had her speak to all the other principals of a Turnaround Art School. And just like Robin shared, the enthusiasm around being able to tap into other skill sets that our children have and to build upon their cultural wealth and allowing them to have a voice in performance, in expression, creates a sense of confidence. And it actually has created a stronger community at Costany School as well around the arts. And we found that teachers who were uncomfortable became more comfortable. And I think it's allowing us to experience how when we learn something new, we may not be great at it at first, but when we dive into and support each other, we become stronger and build skills. And that's in everything that we do. So we also want to be able to extend this program, not to make every school in the district school of the arts, but be able to show how arts can be integrated in regular core content material. So other teachers, other music teachers, for example, will be participating like with the People's Music Schools, and we'll be happy to share additional professional development with other teachers who might be interested.
So if I might, through the chair, also, I mean, Costany is where every year they do the,
musicals.
The musical, right? So we have the VAPA, the showcase. As a result of some of the students being at Costany and being involved in the arts, they now go to MA. And I was so pleased when I went to MA to see a performance, and there's our kids, and that was one of the things that over the years has been a challenge with our students fitting in at Menlo Atherton, that because they weren't fully engaged in all of the activities, including the music activities, including the performing arts and stuff, because we weren't preparing them on our level so that they could move into that. They would just begin to be introduced to music when they got to high school. So they wouldn't be able to get into band and stuff. So some of the work that's being done at Costany has really paid off for the kids in that sense. And then I want to encourage the principal to connect with Nadine Rambeau of the East Palo Alto Arts. So there's a new art center that's opening up on Polgus and Bay Road. If you drive by there, it's going up. I mean, it looks like, and this was designed by youth of this community through a whole design process. And while it was being developed, the idea was to provide opportunity for Ravenswood kids. And in particular, we talked about Costany because it's within walking distance of Costany School. So that the idea is to provide opportunities for us to take that showcase and really showcase it to the full community at the Performing Arts Center. So, you know, making that resource available. So I would encourage you to follow up with that.
That's really,
And that's actually why I pulled it, because I wanted to provide an opportunity, because again, we don't highlight some of the great opportunities that we have in the district. And I thought this was an opportunity to do that. So thank you for allowing me to do that.
Thank you, Trustee Wilson.
we've also talked about making sure we're kind of reinforcing that Costany is a school of the arts, and making sure that like any informational, you know, brochures or website has that stamp, so that becomes very common knowledge, not only to the parents that attend, but to the community as a whole. So thank you, everyone. All right, so I will then entertain a motion to approve item 7L.
So through the chair, then I'd like to make that motion that we approve of the MOU with Turnaround Arts.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
President Polito.
Aye.
Vice President Wilson.
Aye.
Trustee Fitch.
Aye.
Trustee Guyona.
Trustee Guyona, we can't hear you if you're speaking.
Aye.
All right, motion carries 5 to 0.
One more. Trustee Shabohin.
Oh, sorry.
Aye.
Okay, now motion carries 5 to 0. Sorry about that. All right, so then moving back up, it was 7H. Trustee Wilson noticed you will not be able to vote on this, so thank you for noting that. So I'll entertain a motion to approve item 7H.
I'll make a motion to approve item 7H.
I'll second. Roll call, please.
President Polito.
Aye.
Vice President Wilson.
Abstain.
Trustee Fitch.
Aye.
Trustee Guyona.
Aye.
Trustee Shabohin.
Aye.
All right, motion carries 4 to 0. And then lastly, that leaves us with item 7A1. And I believe Trustee Guyona wanted to make a comment.
Yeah, I just have some comments about my concern that I know we need the position, but I am worried about the raise because we are an HR budget, and I know that the money is coming from another places, but still that money could come from another places to go to something else directly to help the students directly, like a position for tutoring for the kids, you know, part-time teacher, reading recovery. There are so many other things that we could be doing. I mean, it is my understanding that we're gonna stop cutting down from top from the time that we had the new superintendent coming in, that we're not gonna be spending so much money in administration positions. So that's a concern for me. And my other concern, it is, again, this last school year, it was a time when we got the Williams report, the report of the investigation or inspection with more items to fix than in past years. I mean, I compared the three of them, and just parents complaining about dirty bathrooms. And that is a concern to me because we want to raise our scores. We want our students to be feeling proud that they come to school. They cannot do that when they go to the bathrooms that are dirty, smelling like gas station, like portables, like abandoned bathrooms. So we need to make sure that we provide the students with that. If we want them to be able to learn and focus on learning, we don't want them to be thinking how much longer for me to go use the restroom, because they do run. Some of them, at least 5 parents contacted me that the bathrooms were dirty, and I didn't take the word for it. I went to see them, and they were really bad. I feel bad that our students have to put up with that. And it was not just the bathrooms. There were dirty campus, graffitis. I mean, I took pictures and I sent them to you. And to me, it makes me feel like we gave the present person who is holding that position big responsibilities, a lot more in order to save us money. But that obviously is affecting the cleanliness of the school because she is doing, whoever is doing the best she can. I believe she's doing what she can. But if we're giving them more, I don't see how that's gonna get better. With the top money, the top money salary that we're giving for that position, we could really hire somebody who has experience, who has a bus driver, the big bus driver license. I don't know if this person has it, but it is a must in case that the bus drivers, whatever happens, there is nobody there. They need to be approved for that. And I don't know if this person has it, but it's something good to look into. It is just having clean facilities. We start by that. Our kids deserve it. Go to Menlo Park, go to Redwood City, bathrooms are clean. Our principal never ever has to go inside the bathrooms of the kids to see if they are clean. They are clean. You can see them from outside. Actually, when I visited the RMS bathroom, at first I made a mistake and I went to some bathrooms and I told the custodian, oh, I don't know why the parents are complaining. These are so great. And he told me these are the teachers' bathrooms. And I go like, uh-oh. So then I went and looked for the other ones. And I just feel like our kids deserve to have the same clean bathrooms as the teachers have access to. And it is not fair that they have to go to dirty bathrooms, graffiti, school with graffiti, dirty schools. I mean, you enter. When I went to visit, right now it must be better, obviously, because the students are not there. But my concern is once we come back to school, we need to have the school cleaner than ever. I mean, sanitized. How are we gonna do this if we were not doing it in the past? So that is my concern. To me, I prefer we get somebody who has the experience, who has done this job, who's able to do it, either that, or give some help, hire another person for the person who we have already, hire another employee so he can support her and keeping the same salary. You can get somebody else to help her. I agree that she's doing what she can, but I don't see how giving her more money, she's gonna be able to do it. That's my concern. And I think, the public deserves to hear that. It is just what I have to do to make sure when I run for school board is to make sure that our kids have access to clean things. I'm not asking that we have the same kind of carpet that the other school has. It's just clean. It's the basic thing. Thank you. That's all.
Superintendent Sadaria, do you have a response to some of these concerns that Trustee Ona just shared?
Right. When it comes to the supervision of the custodians at the school sites, our principals are going to be the immediate supervisors to be able to make rounds across the campus. Specifically, we've added additional custodians to ensure that the bathrooms are cleaned appropriately. This board specifically approved the hire of an additional custodian at the Ravenswood Middle School. In regards to the expense or the extra or the increase, actually this employee saved the district close to $38,000 with getting CNG buses. And so there is savings there where the additional funding can be pulled from. So there's no extra expense to the district. We are not hiring any additional employees in lieu of this employee being appointed. So there won't be an additional hire. So there's no additional expense there. So we have addressed the cleanliness. There was a Williams complaint and we made that correction by hiring the additional custodian. So we are very confident that we are going to be able to provide clean restrooms on campus for our students, and our principals are going to help us do the due diligence of making sure our campuses are clean and providing direction to the custodians directly.
One last thing, we approved the position not too long ago, and I noticed that it's gonna be a retro starting from July, but we just approved the position a couple of weeks ago. How is that work. Shouldn't it be from the time that it gets approved right now? Instead of way back when we didn't even have the position open? That's another thing that I want to clarify.
The Board of Trustees has the authority to make appointments retroactive.
I do want to note that the entire board is equally invested to make sure our facilities are clean and that everything's working properly, and that our students are and our families are receiving the same quality of standard as our staff would. We've had ongoing conversations with the superintendent, who is working on this with our new CBO. And they are working on doing additional systems like internally to make sure that nothing gets lost and we're able to address any concerns of the past and moving forward. So I do want to say that publicly. This is something I think we are all invested in resolving from staff and board, and we're confident that we're going to be able to bring everyone along and give kids what they need, especially when they return from distance learning, right? Especially with COVID-19. Cleanliness is even more needed than ever before, to Trustee Gaona's point.
On that, I was going to share that my experience with this individual has been part of the reopening school committee. And she has been very, very conscious of and has indicated that the staff has been receiving training and more enhanced training about the cleanliness and making sure the sites are germ-free, if you will, and all those kinds of things. So for me, I'm confident that she will, take on this responsibility and will rise to the standard that we're holding.
Thank you for that. All right, so I think we were able to hear from everyone who wanted to speak. If the other trustees feel otherwise, let me know before I entertain a motion. So hearing none, I will entertain a motion to approve item 7A1.
Through the chair, then I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
President Polito?
Aye.
Vice President Wilson?
Aye.
Trustee Fitch?
Aye.
Trustee Gaona?
No.
Trustee Shabomahin?
Aye.
So motion carries 4-1. Trustee Gaona Mendoza voting against. All right, so that takes us to the entire consent agenda, what's left of it. So I will entertain a motion to approve the remaining consent agenda.
Through the chair, I'll make a motion to approve the rest of the consent agenda.
I second it.
All right, roll call, please.
President Polito?
Aye.
Vice President Wilson?
Aye.
Trustee Fitch?
Aye.
Trustee Gaona?
Aye.
Trustee Shabomahin?
Aye.
Okay, great, motion carries 5-0. That takes us to item 8A, the superintendent's report. And I believe we have a back to school distance learning update.
Yes. Solomon will help us with this. Thank you. All right. So we are going to present to you information and update about the first day of school and us getting ready for back to school, and then also provide an update on our distance learning. And in our distance learning, our agenda, we will cover student services, curriculum and instruction, special education, technology, maintenance operations, and transportation. Next slide, Solomon, and then one more. So we have officially launched our 2021 school year with 1,783 students, approximately 1,300 families, and 344 team members that are Ravenswood staff and contracted staff who provide direct services for students. So the first day of school was like no other. Observing kindergarten students latching on to their parents with nervous excitement before entering the classroom for the first time, and middle school students running up to their peers to figure out what classes they would share together was surely missed. But on the next slide, instead, principals and parents beamed in and out of Zoom classrooms while teachers and students were meeting and greeting each other as they learned how to navigate their new virtual classroom. This is definitely not what we could have imagined, but it has definitely forced us to imagine what is otherwise possible. So let us continue to explore how schools could be molded to fit the needs of students versus molding students to fit our schools. We are now bringing schools to our families. We have seen an increase in parent participation by 4 times as many participants during school and district-wide virtual meetings. For example, at our last DAC-DLAC meeting, instead of 15 families participating, we had 92 families Zoom in. Yes. So students received connectivity and technology devices at no cost, and we are able to work, and they are able to work at their own pace and receive support in small breakout sessions. The next slide, Solomon. Staff who typically work outside of the classroom have been strategically utilized to increase the adult to student ratio, like at the Cesar Chavez Ravenswood Middle School. At the middle school, there are 6 students to every adult on campus, where every middle school student is accounted for to sign on to their Zoom class, complete assignments, and ensure just in general that they're managing remote learning. The next slide, please. So amidst all of this, teachers are still probing the following questions. You know, are students showing up? Are students connecting? Are students given worthy work? Are they doing the work? And more importantly, are they learning? So there's much at stake this year, and there's much work to be done, so we can answer yes to all of these questions above. But on behalf of the Board of Trustees, I would like to obviously acknowledge the staff, students, and parents for their grace and patience as we relearn how to connect, teach, and learn during this unprecedented time. We have on the next slide, Solomon, an illustration of the meet and greet that our teachers had done before school started, just to become familiar, so to allow the families to become familiar with their new teachers and teachers become familiar with their new families and students. We've also, in the next slide, made sure that parents know their child's login, have connectivity. We've done a lot of work connecting with our families so they know what the first day of school is going to look like. And some of our schools did this in person. And we are working in collaboration with the Ravenswood Education Foundation on the next slide that illustrates materials and backpacks that were provided for every single child. TK through 5th grade, Ravenswood Education Foundation definitely took the lead on collecting these materials. And then Facebook partnered with another organization to help us provide the middle school backpacks for our 6th through 8th grade students. And then we've been working very closely, and this will be touched upon later on in our presentation, but making sure that our facilities are safe. We still have staff reporting to work, and we have classified staff, also making sure our campuses are suitable for work, for our teachers specifically to teach from their classrooms. Even though the students aren't there, we still have bus drivers as well who are preparing to provide transportation for our students that go to non-public schools. And we still have staff preparing meals. And our meal distribution this year during the regular school year on the next slide is on Mondays and Wednesdays. So at the Belhaven Elementary School and at the Willow site, the distribution's from 8 to 2. on Mondays and Wednesdays, curbside. And then at Costany School of the Arts in Los Robles, Ronald McNair, and at Cesar Chavez Ravenswood Middle School, distribution is from 8:30 to 1:30, and that information is on our website. So helping us make sure that we are able to have had a successful launch of the first day of school, which was just yesterday, are our school principals. We have 4 school principals: Amanda Kemp at Cesar Chavez Ravenswood Middle School, Robin Pang Maganeres, our Costany School of the Arts principal, Michelle Masuda Lee, our Belhaven Elementary School principal, and Alex Quezada, our Los Robles Ronald McNair Academy principal. And they're each going to introduce themselves, and also just, you know, there's a lot of wins, but there's still some areas of growth. So they're going to share a glow and grow as they introduce themselves. And we can start with Amanda Kemp.
Good afternoon. Oh, I tried to do a background and now I just look weird. We're just going to stay there that way. So my quote for my life is "Be the change you wish to see in the world." It's been on my wall in every office, so now it's over at Belhaven as well. And then my statement is, hello, I'm so proud to be starting my 2nd decade of service to this fabulous community and my 2nd year as principal at Cesar Chavez Ravenswood Middle School. This community holds a special place in my heart, and as a leader in EPA, I vow to continue to listen and learn so I can become the best anti-racist champion for change possible. It is my promise that I will be a listener who establishes a welcoming and academically active learning environment. As we plan for a beginning like no other we have seen in the past, our focus will still be to ensure that every child every day is feeling respected by peers and adults on campus. Every child every day is being challenged to grow by new learnings and experiences. And every child every day feels empowered to be the best version of who they are. My glow for the time was that we did have a lot of team members connecting with families, and everybody was reaching out and trying to answer questions and solve problems, and lots of people were just diving in to make sure that the backpacks were organized, the book room is organized, and that the kids are connected. And then our grow is we quickly discovered that there's more than one way to access the Google Calendar, but only in certain paths is the Google Calendar showing the Zoom links. So sometimes that doesn't, it was a mess. So but we had families talk them through it because we were able to solve that problem very quickly. And what I absolutely loved is that our families, which we had 78 at our parent information night. And that's not even our back to school nights. That was just a parent information night. And they took down my district cell phone, and several people reaching out directly to me, as well as the office, as well as their teachers. So they were really definitely feeling that they could talk with us. So I was grateful about that.
Thank you, Amanda. All right, and we've met Robin Pang Maganeres, and she will introduce herself as the principal of Costany School of the Arts.
Hello, again, I'm Robin Pang Maganeres, and as you all know, I'm starting my first year here as Costany's principal with just absolute joy and a tremendous commitment to serve. I have been in public education for about 28 years, 16 of those years in the classroom, primarily as a kindergarten teacher, and the past 12 years as a principal. And what I'm pledging is to bring my very best every day to ensure that the children here at Costany experience the best possible education that they can, while doing so in a safe and loving and compassionate school community. Know that I'm here to completely, and should you ever want me, all you need to do is pick up a phone, I will email, call, and I will be there to answer any questions and to serve. And I'm also looking forward to meeting everyone one day in person. My glow is that we serve children. We open school, and the first day of school we had many children on Zoom, And today we had even more children. So as the days go on, I'm confident that we're going to hit 100% of our kids all the time. So that's my glow. My grow is clearly, I have a duty and an obligation to do better by our kids by learning Spanish and by getting much stronger with my Spanish. It is a shame that I am not able to fully communicate with the parents on our campus when they come and they need help. And so that is my grow. I've got to get stronger with my Spanish.
Thank you, Robin. Welcome. Now we'll introduce to you Michelle Masuda Lee, the Belhaven Elementary School principal.
Good evening, everyone. My quote is, "They may forget what you said, but they will never forget how you made them feel," from Maya Angelou. I'm all about the feels. So my little blurb is, "Hello, Ravenswood. It is my honor to say that I am the principal at Belhaven Elementary this year. I am starting my 12th year here in Ravenswood. I've spent my entire educational career here supporting our students, both as a classroom teacher and administrator. Every year I look forward to serving our students and community, knowing that our students deserve the best education possible. Although this year is off to a different start, please understand that I am still here to ensure our students are supported as a whole child, keeping in mind their academics and social emotional needs. Please don't hesitate to contact me if you have any questions or concerns. Stay safe, and we'll see each other soon." So my glow is that we had 100 parents show up for our parent orientation the day before school started on Tuesday. And our grow is that we only have 33% of our families signed up for Parent Square right now, and I really want to get them all. We're going to get them all to all sign up. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. And now we have Alex Quezada, our principal for Los Robles Ronald McNair Academy.
Hi, everyone. How's it going? The quote that I thought would be a good one for us to start with was, "May we do the work that matters. Vale la pena," by Gloria Anzaldúa. And vale la pena basically means it's worth it. It's worth the work that we're doing because it matters. It matters deeply. And of course, we were eager to begin the school year like everyone else, and we wanted to begin the school year in person. And so we were disappointed that we couldn't begin that way. But we're committed to providing the best learning experience possible. And for all the children of Ravenswood. And in spite of the current crisis, we will continue to seize every opportunity to confront systemic racism, social injustice, and to continue to work for our community. That we know this adversely affects our children and our families in a way that we know is not healthy. And we will work relentlessly to what Sonia Renee Taylor likes to say, stitch a new garment, one that fits all of humanity and nature. So our staff is taking all of this in stride, and we are working hard. We're relentless, we're driven, we're focused, and we can't wait to take this on.
Thank you, Alex. And so trustees, these are our 4 principals leading the way through this uncharted territory of doing education differently, but more importantly, to tackle the social injustice that we see and to make sure that we are making every decision that is anti-racist and measuring ourselves on that spectrum of racism versus anti-racism, as well as trying to be innovative with figuring out how best our children learn. And so we want to emphasize bringing our school home to our families. And so if there's no questions for our principals, we're going to go right into updating in our different departments, starting with student services. Thank you, principals.
Hi, good evening. Cindy Chen, Director of Student Services. The last time that we presented information regarding our distance learning survey right before that we had given to families at the beginning of August, We had about a little over 300 families completing the survey. And with the efforts from the office staff and the Student Services Department and the transportation staff, we were able to contact over 500 families to now have the survey results there at over 62% of the families completing the survey. We called families and went through the survey with them and to get the information. And then also by making that individual contact, we're able to determine, which families had moved on to different cities or different schools. And from all of that information, we are also able to support our tech department by letting them know which families are in need of stable internet and which families have the stable internet. So you can see there, we're looking at about 30% of our families who completed the survey said that they need stable internet still. And we also surveyed our families about their childcare needs. So the blue there indicates by grade level how many students that families indicated would need childcare. When you add up the blue, that's a little over 300 students. And then the pink indicates like how many families or how many students families were not sure if they would need childcare. And that is about 180. And then as far as the families who said that their children would not need childcare, that's about 800 students do not need childcare, with still needing about 37% of the households needing to complete the survey still. And so we'll keep calling families to make sure that we gather all of the information. And then we also figured out that we should, in preparation for the hybrid model, find out from families if they are interested, what they would be interested in terms of either the Tuesday, Thursday, or the Wednesday, Friday, or that they would prefer to do distance learning until they felt it was safe enough. And so those are the results there by household numbers. And then I believe next is the Curriculum and Instruction Department.
Thank you, Cindy. Good evening. Lara Burenin, Director of Curriculum and Instruction here. And I just wanted to give a few updates to build on the presentation that we did at the last meeting. So the first thing to know about the beginning of the year is that we started this year in a period we're calling Smart Start. This is described in our MOU with RTA, and it's a period at the beginning of the school year that is explicitly devoted to building relationships with students and parents. And this is using instructional time to do that because we really need those strong relationships as a foundation for our instruction throughout the year. And unlike the spring when we switched to virtual learning, we now have new classes with teachers who they've never met before, and teachers have their classes full of students who they've never met before. So this is a great opportunity to start connecting on a very personal level. It's also an important time to build classroom community and help students get to know each other. As you know, we've merged schools and we have things that have aspects that have changed about our different school sites. And so we want everyone to feel welcomed and like they're part of that larger school community, even though we're not all on campus together. Another important aspect of Smart Start is teaching routines and specifically technology tools. Tech access and skill is huge for accessing distance learning. So this is a great opportunity to really focus not on the content, but on teaching those skills and routines. Amanda Kemp mentioned one of those about learning how to find the Zoom link in the Google Calendar. That's really important for students to access all of their classes, and this is a great opportunity for us to work out those kinks. Another component that's happening right now is materials pickups. We want students to have not only their technology, but also their curriculum materials and analog materials for learning at home. Next slide. I'm going to show you two sample schedules that give you an idea of what distance learning can look like about 6 weeks into school. So we've started the year in Smart Start, and we'll be transitioning into our full academic schedule. We really want to build up to that. With these schedules, you'll see both synchronous and asynchronous learning. And it's important to know that for TK through 5th grade, this is a sample schedule. So it's not the precise times that these things are happening, but rather just an example to show how the different subjects could fit into the day and how synchronous and asynchronous instruction can fit into the day. For 6th through 8th grade, it's a little bit different because the master's schedule, as I explained last time, really needs to drive the time structure so that students know when they can connect with their different teachers and attend all of their courses. Next slide. So I know this is quite small, but I am going to run through it for you. I wanted you to see the full picture of the week. So our literacy coaches, in collaboration with curriculum and instruction team and teacher leaders, really did some thinking through the month of August, and with professional development attended, to think, how can we fit in all the subjects as we're obligated to provide to our students? And again, use a combination of synchronous and asynchronous learning. So this is a 1st grade sample schedule that shows how we're starting the day a little bit later, thinking of, families getting into that routine at 9 a.m. with a suggested morning meeting or restorative circle that's really focused on community building. And then from there, the sample schedule goes into a synchronous balanced literacy component. So for example, a mini lesson, shared reading, read aloud. And then from there, sort of mirrors the workshop model where students could be learning synchronously or asynchronously. So for example, in a small group with the teacher, or doing independent reading on their own. You can see, again, a really similarly structured writing block with synchronous and asynchronous options. A break time in the day, and then I guess similar structure for math. And then in the afternoon, a sample time slot for social studies or science. A designated specials time, which the schedule for that is coordinated across the school site. And then the final thing on the sample schedule is designated English language development instruction, which occurs in small groups so that the teaching can be targeted to the EL levels of the students. So this, again, is an example of a teacher schedule that we could have about 6 weeks into school. So we're building up to the different content areas that you see here and that combination of synchronous and asynchronous learning. Next slide. This is an example of a 6th grade student schedule. And so here you can see, just as I described last time, how the periods all fit together and how the time throughout the school day can be spent. So you'll notice on Tuesdays and Thursdays, there's the same set of periods offered twice a week. And then Wednesday and Friday, again, you see the same set of periods offered twice a week. There's a slightly different schedule on Mondays for the lessons that are provided. And then you'll also notice in the afternoons, there's designated time blocks for office hours, for students to do homework, which is at this point really just another form of asynchronous learning, and view videos if needed, breaks built in. And through this schedule, students have access to all of their core content areas, an elective course, PE, and if needed, intervention or designated English language development. So it's a very intricate schedule. So I just wanted to show those examples to build on the goals that I discussed last time for distance learning, which are around engaging students in live instruction through participation, using formative assessment to drive instruction, give students feedback, and report progress to parents, and a focus on culturally responsive teaching practices. So how can that all look in the week with distance learning? These are the examples that I wanted to show you. Thank you.
Good evening, Board of Trustees. I'm Jennifer Gravum, the Director of Special Education. And last time, like Laura was saying, I presented to everyone some details about how we were delivering instruction. And I wanted to present some additional information about how assessment is working with the Special Education Department. Solomon, if you could go to the next slide, please. So in special education, we have two forms of major assessments that we give our students. We do give formative assessments all of the time, but initial and triennial assessments are big assessments that we give all of our students. Initials are for students who are newly potentially qualifying for special education services, and triennials are assessments that we give every 3 years to all of our students with an IEP. Those assessments must be given in person, and so it was an incredible challenge when we went to shelter in place in March. It left us with March through June, where triennial and initial assessments were placed in a state of limbo. And our response is that at that time was to hold a part meeting, talk with our parents, with the IEP team, explain what assessments we had completed thus far, anything we needed to complete, and letting them know that we would continue assessment when it was safe to do so. If you go to the next slide, Solomon. So after consulting with surrounding districts, with our SELPA, with legal counsel, we've created a safe way to do in-person assessments. And we have a very strict protocol, and that protocol includes a temperature check when students arrive, a COVID risk factor checklist that we give our parents, and a signed agreement from parents that they're okay with us conducting the assessment. And we have a lot of PPE that we use. We have what we call right now 2 clean rooms, and those clean rooms are only used once per day and only used for assessments. When the students arrive for their assessment, right now our 2 that we have are here at the district office. They hand wash upon arrival, masks for both the assessor and the student, face shields for both the assessor and the student, and a sneeze guard in between the 2 of them for the assessment, and the tables are placed 6 feet apart. And if you scroll to if you click to the next slide, Solomon, you'll see exactly what that looks like. And we spent this summer developing a protocol that was safe for both our students and our staff, and we've been able to begin those in-person assessments in the safest way possible. In the first photo, you see an empty room that stays empty unless we're doing an assessment, and you'll see the gap between the 2 desks to guarantee that when seated, they're 6 feet apart. So what happens is you have student, face mask, face shield, sneeze guard, assessor with the face shield, then the face mask, and we sanitize that room in between anything with our brand new sanitizing machines. In this photo on the right-hand side, you see one of our psychologists in white and our student, highly protected, so you cannot see who she is, taking the assessment. Are these ideal conditions for assessment? They're not, but this is the best we can do considering where we are at in the world. It is the best thing to do in terms of safety for our students and our staff. So we've been able to conduct 5 of these so far. We did our first one on Wednesday, just yesterday, feels like forever ago. Our first one just Wednesday with a preschool student, and we had mom with also a face shield and the mask and assisting her 3-year-old through the assessment process. And we're just doing our best considering everything that we have in front of us. If you could slide to the next slide, Solomon. So these are the big numbers. We have a backlog of 65 assessments that have piled up from when we went on shelter in place. And we are slowly but surely moving through as many of them as we can, as safely as possible, in the best interest of our students. We are going into a year where we can predict out that we have 107 assessments for the 2021 school year. Those are our normal triennial assessments. Of course, there will be initial assessments as well, but we never know when those are coming in. I wanted to give a little bit of context in terms of assessment length. They can take between 5 and 7 hours for each assessment. They're completed over multiple sessions, and they're delivered by multiple service providers. We cannot do that with just 2 clean rooms here at the district office. So moving forward, we're hoping to set up multiple clean rooms at each site, 1 for each service provider, meaning our special education teachers have them, our occupational therapists have them, our psychologists have them, and our speech and language professionals have them. That means 37 rooms in total. We have all of the PPE that we need with the exception of the sneeze guards. In a lot of cases right now, we are at the absolute mercy of how the distribution centers and how fast things that are in high demand can be sent out to sites. So I wanted to give just a little update on something that we don't always present to the board, but I thought it was of definite interest for you to know what's going on in terms of assessment, both initial and triennial in special education. And I believe that now I'm going to introduce Solomon, who will be presenting next.
Good evening, board. Solomon Hill, Director of Technology. We've been very busy. Obviously, you can't do distance learning without technology. And we've been very busy making sure our students have technology in their hands. We've had, there we are. I'm going to talk about our teacher handout, our student handout, and just a very quick update on our infrastructure. So we've been handing out very quickly over the last couple of weeks technology to teachers, classified staff, families, students. Feels like the whole world. It's been quite a challenge. This isn't normally how we start the year. Under a normal year, we'd be busy in classrooms, obviously getting things, making sure everything's ready. Instead, we've been making sure first that staff could, access their professional development, beginning with the new teachers over the last couple of weeks. Make sure classified staff could access their professional development. Getting everyone logged in. One of the big challenges we had is the way we do logins. Normally, everyone, you have to first utilize your password here on campus in order for everything to sync up and work. And we had to re-engineer the way we did things so that it could work from home for people who were logging in from home first. And so we were able to get that through. We also provided for teachers opportunity to have a second monitor. We had a number of large monitors from that we've kept from some computer labs and from other donations and things. So we offered teachers the opportunity to have a second monitor because it's great to be able to teach and show what you're doing and see the faces at the same time. So we also, our new AV coordinator worked one-on-one with teachers as we had them lining up safely distance and showing them how to utilize that relatively new resource for them. We made sure for each one it connected to their laptop so they were good to go. So doing that took a little bit more time per teacher than we estimated. We spent about half hour, a little more per teacher, getting that hooked up, but we think it was well worth the effort. Student device handouts, we have some preliminary statistics just on the first couple of days that we were handing out devices to new students and for people who needed repairs or didn't get a device last fall. Students who had a device and it worked, is continuing working, they're continuing to use their device through the summer and they still have that device. But we gave out 588 new devices, including 289 Chromebooks, 270 hotspots, and 29 iPads over the first 2 days. Since then, we've given out dozens more devices. I don't have those statistics yet. It'll be a couple of days before we compile all of that. But I want to give you just a sense of how many devices, how many families we've seen in the last just couple of days. We broke it down just by school site. You can see there's a pretty big variance there with RMS, Cesar Chavez RMS, taking the biggest number of devices that we handed out. And a lot of families, one of the things we are seeing is families who can't, had the internet again last spring, circumstances have changed, either economically for them or again, realizing that the internet is not, their current situation is not enough for all of their children, requesting a hotspot. So that we are seeing that again. And, again, our numbers have increased since then. We are having regular handout hours and tech support hours, Tuesdays and Thursdays, Tuesday afternoons, Thursday morning. That's going to be at, through distance learning and maybe even beyond. Those are the times anyone calls, or if you board, if you hear someone needs help, just tell them to come to their school site on Tuesday afternoon, 1 to 4, or Thursday morning, 9 to noon, and we'll have a table set up providing help, mostly in the cafeterias now, that we will move to a smaller space when the schools need their cafeterias back. But right now, we're occupying their cafeterias with tables, safely distanced, a lot of room there, and providing, that hands-on support a lot of families do need. Maybe they need to be shown how to log in. We set up the hotspots so they would automatically log into devices, but there are glitches, and so we have a plan to make sure that we have a place for families, staff as well. We have a site-based model for technology support for the year, and we have staff doing more hours than those, obviously, on campus. We also take appointments, and right now, actually it's over now, we had our first evening session at Costany for handing out devices and for tech support. So we want to see how that goes and how many people show up before we schedule anything regular there. But my guess is probably, I haven't checked in with my staff, but if there are enough people showing up to that, we might schedule something more regular in the evening as well. The last thing I wanted to just briefly talk about, I don't have a slide for it, but is that we are ongoing with our infrastructure projects. We are breaking ground at Costany, doing some trenching in order to improve the network there. So, but mostly we've been focused since the last board meeting on getting equipment ready, getting it in the hands of people. And I want to introduce Delma, who I think is doing the maintenance, operations, transportation part. Oh, there she is. Hey, Delma.
Good evening. Okay, so last but not least, maintenance, operations, and transportation. My name is Delma Camacho, and I have a team of people that are just doing a tremendous job. I don't like that word, but they're doing a great job. Maintenance team is just working really hard, completing work orders. After the merge, there was a lot of residual stuff. Teachers are coming onto their classrooms finding they need extra furniture, or we missed this, or something went somewhere else. So we are just trying to do the best we can, and I think that they're doing an amazing job with that. Operations, custodial staff also is having to adjust and just really tend to the needs right now, mostly of our staff, because these are the people that are on campus right now. So it keeps changing, and it's great because we can just grow from that, and working closely with them to just get into a process and just be ready for when our kids do come back to school. And on a side note there, we're getting ready for our Williams Facilities in-house audit. It will be uploaded by my team, and we will be starting that. It needs to be done within the first 2 weeks of school. So that will be coming up shortly. Transportation. There's obviously not a lot of transportation happening right now, but we are making sure that we are being as supportive as we can to other departments. We have seen a very slight increase in parents calling in the last 2 days that we've been in session, calling us and asking that they want to continue to receive the meals at home. So, that's great. I think it's really important for the kids to come out and see the drivers. That's a face to the district when we're delivering the meals to them. And we're also supporting where we can with helping, call for the surveys, as Ms. Chen mentioned. We're helping tech with distribution when time allows. And another thing that we are being creative with our time is helping organize warehouse spaces that, we kind of stored a lot of books and supplies and stuff. So right now is a good time to do that. Just clear out space and, get organized. And that's what I have for the teams. Another thing that I do a lot of work on is facilities. And one of the things that I'm really excited about is creating outdoor spaces for our students when we do come back and are able to do a hybrid model. So that's been a learning experience for me, but it's very, it's great. enjoy it. Thank you. That's all I have.
Is that the whole presentation, Superintendent?
And that's the conclusion, yes. So if there's any questions, Trustee Polito.
All right, thank you for that presentation to the entire staff. It's great to know how we're gearing up to start the school year. As I heard you all talking, I kept asking questions and I realized we haven't really started school because other schools have opened sooner and we have a very late start. So I will open it up to the board for any questions or comments on any part of the presentation, if there
Through
is
the
any.
chair.
Yes.
Thank you. I have a question about the, first of all, thank you so much, echoing our president's gratitude for everything you've done so far in getting ready for school. And so my question is around the first grade sample. And so I wanted to know, I'm thinking about the children, the students, and how much screen time they have. And I know they're starting the day at 9, going till about, I don't know if it's at 2 or 2:15. And I was wondering if the asynchronous options, if it included paper activities or if those asynchronous activities would still be online. I know I saw some software platforms, but basically I'm just trying to get to how much time the young children are spending on, in front of a screen. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. So the asynchronous learning time is definitely inclusive of both online activities and using analog materials. We really want students to still read books, which is why we're doing frequent materials pickups throughout the year. And learning to write, for example, is still really important, both for the motor skills and also for the writing skills themselves. And so there will definitely be a range of paper pencil activities that students are doing. They'll still have their same workbooks that they would have in the classroom. And I can add to that goes for synchronous learning as well. So the huge benefit of synchronous learning is that you are live with your teacher and with your classmates in different size groups, but you can still refer to analog materials at that time.
Sorry, just to clarify, you said that they have their packet materials also available to them. Is that what you said, Laura?
Like their workbooks, for example, that they would have in the classroom.
Okay, well, I just want to not let that go too far because I'm worried about how many people are not connecting through distance learning. So we are providing alternative ways for kids to have the curriculum and everything they need to not fall behind.
Right, exactly. Yeah, and we need to track both synchronous and asynchronous learning through our attendance system. So that's something we'll be looking at for students who are participating in different ways.
Was there another question, Trustee Shabomaheen, or was that it?
Oh, no, that was it. Thank you so much, Laura. Thanks.
So through the chair, I have a question.
Yes.
First, a comment that thank you, staff, for all the work that you're doing, especially around student services, getting to 62% of the people completing the surveys. That's really good. And I'm glad to see that we're going the extra mile to really try to make sure that we're connecting with families. My question is with curriculum and instruction. So you said that we're doing the smart start and that we're leading up to a full schedule. When will we be launching into the full schedule?
So the academic content will start next week, and our curriculum maps also start in the second week of school. So it's really a period of transition, and there's not a single day where it switches from like only Smart Start to only academic content. We really see building community and relationships as interspersed throughout our instructional time. And so we think that buildup is really important. And another thing that varies is a little bit from site to site, like, the special schedule, for example, is like slightly different at each site. And then another important factor is from grade to grade. So in kindergarten and TK, we know that, you know, they're getting their iPads distributed on Monday, which is really exciting, right? But then that also means that they have, you know, more to learn once the devices get handed out. And actually not only for that reason, but also because they're our youngest students who haven't participated in elementary school at all, let alone via distance learning. And so there are things that we want to learn about what works and what doesn't work. And then part of our learning continuity plan that we will be presenting at the next meeting is around tracking attendance and engagement. And we need to have a plan to re-engage students who miss 60% or more of instruction in a given week. And not only that, but students who need further academic support as well. So we really see this time as an opportunity to learn a lot and to be very reflective about the practices that we're using, because as Trustee Fitch put it last time, no one has done this before and has it all worked out. And so we really want to acknowledge that we have to have a growth mindset this year. We have to be very reflective, and we have to keep trying to figure out what works. And not only that, but the same thing isn't going to work for every family.
Yeah.
So we'll keep you updated.
Okay, thank you.
Other questions or comments from the board? Yes, Trustee Gona Mendoza. We can't hear you, Trustee Gona.
So I just want to congratulate everybody for the hard work, teamwork, getting prepared, and, you know, to tackle these difficult times. It's a different thing, but I know that, you know, you're gonna do fine. I can see it. Luckily, the students are happy to go back, even if it's, you know, from the ones that I have had contact with, even if it is online, they can go back because we see each other when we're doing this. So thank you for putting everything together. I know it takes a teamwork. Thanks.
Thank you.
Excuse me. I have a few follow-up questions. So from the data that was shared, it said 30% do not have secure internet connection. So what is and that's only from the parents that got surveyed, right? I think almost half of them haven't even got surveyed. So we don't know if they have secure internet connection or not. So I would love to learn a little bit more about what is going to be the big lift around connecting with families and making sure our students have what they need to be able to start the school year.
So it's a lot of coordination between Student Services Department and the Technology Department. I'll let Solomon speak on it, but a bit more. But really, you know, we've been kind of tasked with supporting the Technology Department to make the phone calls and connecting with families to find out what status they are at in terms of the quality of their internet connection. Solomon, if you want to add more.
Yeah. So, you know, we were tasked a couple of weeks ago by the superintendent with having student services and office managers just contact all the families and find out what their status was, you know, all the returning families, find out what their status was, check in with all the new families, find out what their status is, get as much information out as possible, and be as available as possible for doling out devices for as long as possible. And, you know, we have people, you know, first it was a deluge, now they're trickling in as we get a hold of them and they come in and we hand them a device. We're lucky to have, you know, ongoing partnership with CZI, a new partnership with San Mateo County providing hotspots. We have, you know, Comcast Xfinity we're advertising with their free Wi-Fi. I don't know if you know this, but if you look at your phone, you probably see Xfinity Wi-Fi. Through December at least, that's free. You can just use it. You don't have to be a Comcast customer. So we're using as many avenues as possible to reach as many people as possible. And it's ongoing, and it will need to continue because some families, you know, I know they've had to be called a few times, and but we're getting the devices out there, and we've given out, as the presentation showed, hundreds of hotspots since the beginning of the year, 500 last year, right? So we have, about over 700, well over 700 hotspots out there.
And Trustee Polito, just to add to that, the principals and the teachers obviously are taking attendance of who is present or not during synchronous, asynchronous times. So we will find out who is not able to log in. And again, Cindy mentioned, and Solomon did as well, like the admin assistants, I did charge them to help us find out who is not connected by calling directly, persistently.
I'm glad to hear that it's phone call is the method and not so much just sending an email out. I think connecting with people over the phone and walking them through, right? How do you connect? Why is this important? Is going to be more of an impact than just an electronic email. So I'm actually happy to hear that there's practice of reaching out to families directly via phone.
And just to sort of follow up, when families do come to us, we're not just handing it to them and saying goodbye. We're showing them and logging them in. And we've had I was remiss in not thanking the Maintenance, Operation, Transportation Department, Student Services, particularly because, a lot of the van drivers have been helping us, particularly with translation. It's really been a big team effort, and our volunteers fell off. We weren't able to give volunteers too much over the last couple of weeks, and in terms of during the handouts, because people are back to school and students and families, in all communities are busy right now. So they really stepped up. So I want to thank the other departments, especially MOT and Student Services, for helping.
Thank you, and thank you to the whole team. The other question I had was around special education. I'm really concerned because I believe there was an update given that assessments, it doesn't matter if you're in the watch list or not, are required. It's no longer like COVID-19 isn't a reason, being on a watch list isn't a reason. Like, we are opening ourselves up to a lot of liability by not being able to complete assessments. So I heard kind of the plan you all have, opening up more rooms to try to get more kids in. But I just want to stress that this is not at all optional. If we feel any type of way, we are expected and demanded to provide assessments. So I guess my question is, you mentioned some of the things that we're going to do moving forward. Do we have a timeline of when we expect to be caught up to have completed whatever assessments, during the shelter in place and kind of we weren't able to do? Do you have like a timeline?
I don't have a specific timeline, and I think that's a great question. Right now, I'm at the mercy of the delivery of the sneeze guards. So that is kind of getting in our way, and we don't have control over that. I do have a meeting with legal counsel on Monday to see what other kind of parameters we can consider, because you are exactly right. There's been no lapse of the timeline. They're federal timelines, and so the state of California doesn't have control over waiving them at all. We are looking into any kind of assessments that we can deliver online without students present for safety as well. And then we do have a purchase going in for a new assessment, a new type of assessment that's given over iPad. So there doesn't have to be exchange of paper back and forth between the student and the assessor, and the iPads are connected by Bluetooth, which makes it a little bit safer. And we're just hearing guidance that there are more assessments that we are able to deliver via distance learning via the computer, which does open things up. But we do open all of the assessments at the correct timeline and do all of the online things that we can do, all of the surveys, because some of them are questionnaires and surveys that the parents can complete. And we do a review of all of the students' records and class assessments and grades to start the process of assessment, even if we can't complete the in-person, which does keep us compliant with legal timelines. And yeah, very closely with every district around us and the county and legal counsel, because it's not an easy one to solve. Nobody's completely solved it yet.
Right. It would be great if hopefully at the next board meeting, we can get like a timeline once you connect with council and you see different ways that we can catch up, because you know, we got out of RCEP and
Right.
not that long ago, right? And that had to do with special education, that had to do with not meeting and servicing special education students. And we went to hell and back to get out of there. It was one of our greatest accomplishments. Some of us who were here way before and out of that.
Yeah.
We're just not only is it an issue of not wanting to go back to that, but it's just, you know, these parents, students need these services. And that kind of goes into the other part of the update, was that there are also supposed to be critical support services being provided on campus that have to do with special education. So I'm wondering if you all are thinking about what that would look like for Ravenswood, whether it's like, you know, your counselor, your mental health services. How are we planning for that? And what could that look like for Ravenswood?
Yeah, I think those two questions are great questions. Hopefully we can have an update for timeline in terms of assessment by the next board meeting. And in terms of on-campus service, there is the waiver out right now. We will be having a meeting with all of the directors of special ed to talk about what on-campus services would look like, who that would be best applied to. I can have Cindy, I think, answer for counselors, so that's a different department. But we are having those conversations.
Yeah, because we have a big group of students that fall under that, right? So we have an abnormally large group of students compared, I think, to other districts.
Right.
You know, I'm just thinking ahead of how we're going to address that, but I think Cindy Chin, I don't know if you were going to add on to that.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know that all of the organizations that we work with for our mental health counseling services are available to do the counseling services over telehealth. And so we are centralizing the referral process in terms of needing counseling support, so that we can make sure that we direct it to the appropriate organizations, whether it is perhaps a family needing resources, and then so we'll refer to the Children's Health Council. If it's a student who has experienced trauma, we can refer to Child Mind Institute, so that they can work in small groups for really trauma-informed counseling support. And then we also work with Cassie and Star Vista, so we'll be able to funnel referrals to them. They follow more of a shorter timeline in terms of their cycle of working with students for counseling support. And so all of those agencies are available to do services. And additionally, Star Vista, both of the counselors are bilingual, and then Cassie has a bilingual counselor for Los Robles Ronald McNair.
Can I add one more thing about special education, just because RCIP is always the thing that is in the back of my head constantly, like we're not going back there, like we're just not, it's like not an option. But specifically when thinking about initial assessments, when we're looking at whether students do or don't qualify for special education services, we're offering interim support to be able to support kids before we even complete the assessment in certain cases, so that the kids don't ever stop getting the services, or we aren't not starting the services when they would need it. And that's really the core of what special education does, is it provides the supports. Aside from assessment, which tells us whether they have a disability or not, we're still providing the support. So I wanted to alleviate you of that notion that we're still providing that interim support and walking parents through that process, because it's a challenging one.
Got it. Thank you for those responses, and I'll be sure to circle back on some of that at the next board meeting. And then the last thing was just noting about the parent engagement piece. I am happy to hear how many parents participated in our DLAC meeting. I mean, what is that? At least triple the numbers that we normally get from in person. I mean, I've been to them. And you know what? The reality is it's hard for a lot of our parents. They have childcare needs and they have their busy schedules that, you know, they're just getting home. And I just want us to like see what's working as far as engaging parents. And then when we return to some normalcy, whenever that is, we kind of have our lessons learned and say, you know what, this is a better way of connecting with our parents. So why don't we continue to, you know, carry that forth, just, you know, once we're past distance learning. I mean, if the best way for parents to engage is virtually, then why not continue that beyond distance learning, right? So I just want to note that I'm happy to hear that kind of engagement is happening. That's awesome. So yay, kudos.
We were very excited about that.
One more note from me, sorry. We thank you to the board for approving our new position of a special education mental health coordinator. We have hired somebody and she is here to begin to start doing mental health assessments for our students with special needs as well. So I wanted to let you know that she's here to provide that support to students and their families.
All right, awesome. Thank you. Well, thank you to the whole team. Thank you for pulling together and making this happen. I know everyone's been working around the clock, no days off. So even when you have days off, you know, your mind's spinning and you're trying to figure out how to solve all these problems. So thank you to the entire team for putting this together. And we're going to continue to figure out how to serve our students and our families. All righty, so let's go on. I had the agenda in front of me. Now I can't find it. Let's see, there it goes. So I believe that takes us, that was just a report, no action needed. So we will be able to move to the business department, item 9A, the MOU with all 5.
So Will will walk us through these 2 items under the business department.
Good evening, trustees. Can you guys see my screen here? Fantastic. I want to walk you through 2 items tonight. The first, I'm hoping, is a relatively quick update on an extension of an agreement with all 5, which I've already walked through with some of you. And the second kind of gets at how are we paying for all of the wonderful things that my colleagues just outlined. A lot of really good work there, and want to make sure that you guys are aware of the plans for putting funds to all of those issues. So first on the all 5, quick update here. We've reached an agreement with all 5 that we believe is very beneficial to both sides. Put simply here, we believe that this plan will allow all 5 to expand quickly during the pandemic to help meet family and student needs, as well as the needs of our staff. This also allows us to replace a condemned portable in the heart of the campus. The general idea of what we're proposing here is there's 2 portables here, P13 and P14, that abut the campus on all 5 as property. This is sort of their main play yard here. Long term, all 5 would like to invest about $900,000 in improving P17, 18, and 19. That project has been slightly delayed, as some of you may know. And so we've sort of exploring different options with them. We came to an agreement that more or less said, you know, you guys can use P13 and P14 in exchange for repairing this family services portable. It's in the middle of the Belhaven campus here that is currently unused. This will, I think, allow us sort of a whole bunch of good things. So one, will increase sort of the rent that we're going to be taking in from all 5. 2, during the pandemic, all 5 will prioritize these open spots that will allow them to expand, giving them to RCSD teachers to the extent possible. So teachers who are teaching can get childcare discounted rates from all 5. And long term, we've worked with all 5 to save up to 10 spots for either children of the district or teachers or staff and their children who are eligible for the program. And finally, we've also just sort of clarified the overall contract. There were a couple of sort of things in the MOU that I won't sort of go into detail on, but I think that this new contract gives us a lot more stability, flexibility, and just confidence sort of over the long term that this is sort of the right thing for our staff, as well as the district overall. So for example, you know, the contract previously allowed every $75,000 of investment they put in to renew. And this gives us a sort of 10-year plan. So all five, which is investing $900,000 in replacing these portables here, which is a really significant investment in what is our property. After that period, either party can cancel the contract if they so choose, with sort of a runway for parties to plan accordingly here. I know I've talked to the facility subcommittee about this, and I think I've kept them sort of in the loop, but for those of you who haven't heard this before, I wanted to give a quick update here. I believe you have the full MOU, as well as some more information on this slide. I'm happy to take any questions if there are any.
Thank you. So to Will's point, Trustee Sharifa and I have had a lot of conversations about this. So maybe Trustee Wilson wants to add to it, but do any of the other board members have any questions, comments, concerns?
Yes, thank you. Through the chair, can you help me understand, because there was an agreement that we entered with all five, I believe, in 2019. So just this seems like a revision of something.
It is, yes.
Explicitly say what the revision is again. There were some times when someone else was unmuted and coming in, so I missed some of what you said there, so I might have missed that. So what's the explicit change between that?
I'm sorry to hear that. There's sort of a bunch of changes. The biggest change, sort of the catalyst for this change, if you will, is we're basically allowing them to use P13 and P14 in exchange for funding to help replace this family services portable. It's not going to cover the entire cost of it, but a substantial portion of it. So we're going to get some nice new classrooms here in exchange for allowing them to use this space here. In addition to, sorry,
how long is the use of P13 and P14?
I believe we have an out there after 5 years.
After 5 years, we have an out. So it is not an automatic renewal. You said we have an out.
It is an automatic renewal. After 5 years, we can, I believe, exit that portable. The broader agreement, though, is for 10 years because, again, they're putting so much money into P17, P18, P19. The prior agreement, to your earlier question, rolled over continuously, assuming that they were investing at least $75,000 into the property. So while this is a longer contract, and I know that we've sort of had some reservations about longer contracts, this actually does sort of have an end in sight, or gives us the ability to have an end in sight, whereas my understanding of the previous contract was that there was not necessarily an explicit end if they continue to invest in their property or find ways to invest in the property.
Got it. And in order to have that out at at the 5 year mark, I'm assuming the process is just that the superintendent would just bring it to the board.
I believe actually we just have to notify them in writing, and then there's sort of a wind down period.
Okay.
And that's sort of a difference in sort of the longer term view of this contract. It's not, I think in prior versions, there were windows where you could potentially end it. Now, after a 10-year period, we can announce at any time that we'd like to end the contract and the wind down period begins. So it's not like a 10-year contract with a 5-year renewal and then another 5-year renewal. It's a 10-year contract and we can cancel in years 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 if we see that's in the advantage of the district or benefit of the district.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Does that address your concern, Trustee Shabomaheen, or does that raise a question for the?
No, I mean, I think my only concern always with every contract is about these like continuous or automatic renewals, or like the one where it's like, oh, if the impetus is on us to like go in and stop by a certain date, and then, oh, someone forgot. And so I'm always just trying to figure out, is there a way, we don't get to a point where it's like, oh, someone forgot. And so now we have this deal that we have forever.
And that's very explicitly not what we have here. We actually worked very difficult to make sure that there's a period of time where we're trying not to get out of the contract. So we made it difficult to get out, again, because of the massive investment all five's putting in. Mm-hmm. But then after that, it's not like, it has to be the third Thursday of January that you have to announce your intentions. Any day of the year we can announce, and that starts sort of the wind down clock, so that it is easy for us to do. And the wind down clock is relatively flexible, so we can work within that if to accelerate finding them a new home, if that's the sort of option that we need to explore.
Thank you. That does address my concern. And thank you, Trustee Polito.
Awesome. All right. Any other board members with comments or questions? Okay, if there is no one, this is an action item, so I will entertain a motion to approve item 9A, the MOU with all five.
I'll make a motion to approve the MOU with all five.
I'll second it. Roll call, please.
President Polito,
Aye.
Vice President Wilson. I'm sorry.
Sorry, I was on mute. Yes.
Trustee Fitch,
Aye.
Trustee Guyona,
Aye.
Trustee Shibomihi.
Aye.
Okay, motion carries 5-0. That moves us to the COVID budget update.
So I want to focus our attention tonight sort of on a broader topic here of just funding that we've received to address the pandemic. This isn't going to talk necessarily tonight about the pandemic's impact on our overall budget, nor am I going to talk at this time about the overall health of our budget, which remains strong. To some extent, what I'm trying to answer in the next couple of minutes here is really the question of, we're doing a lot of things right now. You saw a lot of the investments that we're making in order to support our students. And I just wanted to sort of give some reassurances here that we have a plan for how we're paying for that. We have a process that we believe is very thoughtful and really sort of considers the complexity of the situation. And I do want to just make clear that over the next few weeks, we will be updating you on our year-end close, which is ongoing and wrapping up very soon. And at that point, we'll sort of talk about the overall fiscal health that we had last year and the impact of the pandemic on our broader budget, not just some of the additional funds that I'll focus on today. And I want you to know, even though we're not necessarily talking sort of about the broader budget overall, that doesn't mean we're not working on it. We're undergoing a lot of efforts right now to make our budget even stronger, more transparent, and are excited to be reporting back to you as part of that, of the sort of upcoming interim budget later this fall. So there's sort of a lot of things moving here, and I want to just be clear that our focus today is a little bit narrow, and I really want to call our attention to these 4 funds here. So over the last couple of months, we've been allocated nearly $5 million from various sources. Most of these are federal sources, although there is sort of a mix of federal, state, and local funding. The first is just the Learning Loss Mitigation Funds. It's part of the CARES Act. This was the biggest chunk of money. It's about $3 million, but it does come with a very tight spending deadline at the end of this year. Some of this money was allocated earlier this year. And this is sort of, I think, a big chunk of the work we've been doing of how can we spend responsibly against what is a relatively tight deadline of the end of this year. ESSER, the Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund, and GREER, the Governor's Emergency Education Relief Fund, are smaller amounts and both relatively flexible, as we'll sort of see in the next slide. And we have an extended time. There's actually a slight typo on the slide. I believe it's September 30th of 2022. So we actually have several years here. I'm sorry about that. I'll correct that. So we have a bit of time to get these right. It's not necessarily due particularly soon. You'll also note for those two, we're required by law to set aside some funds for private schools. So while our initial allocation was a bit larger for GREER and ESSER, we do have to set aside a proportion amount given that we have some schools who are in our district who are attending private schools. It is possible that these funds will not be claimed by the private schools, in which case they would revert back to us. But we are sort of at an abundance of caution right now, just setting these funds aside. And finally, the Ravenswood Education Foundation has also raised a significant amount of money, about $1 million so far in local donations from a variety of donors over the last couple of years. So let's just talk about sort of what's specifically in each of these different accounts, or each of these different funds. There are, as I mentioned, various levels of restriction on each of them. For example, on LLMF, the Learning Loss Mitigation Funds, these are, I think, the most restricted out of the funds, and you'll remember that they're also the funds that are due soonest. These funds are explicitly designed to support learning loss mitigation, right? So they're meant to help basically recover lost instructional minutes. There's some flexibility in using them for instructional materials or supports or other physical and mental services for students, but much less flexible than ESSER or GEAR, which I'm going to explain sort of in conjunction. as they're relatively similar in what they can provide. They're really in response to, these are needs the district's facing in response to COVID. So for example, LLMF does not fund something like PPE, whereas ESSER and GEAR would. There's a couple of other sort of in the weeds differences here, but for the most part, ESSER and GEAR, if you're thinking about some way that we could, need to spend some additional resources in order to respond to the pandemic, ESSER and GEAR probably cover it. Get about $1 million or a little bit less there. And that LLMF is really about, our students have lost some instructional time. How can we use that to recover that? Any questions on sort of the ins and outs here? I don't want to overpromise what I might be able to answer here, but I can answer maybe some basic questions about what the funding structure is.
Trustee Wilson?
No, we're good.
Okay, sorry, I thought you had a question.
So as we're sort of thinking through, we've been allocated these funds. I think one of the things that we were thinking about is what's sort of the framework we want to use to approach this. And there's a couple sort of value statements I want to just outline here. And the first, and kind of obviously here is, we really want to prioritize the safety of our students and staff while on campus. That means, when students come back, how are we investing in sort of new signage, things like that, to make sort of our campuses as safe as possible. And that means doing some things now, right? So we've already invested in, I think as you've heard earlier, misters and new cleaning routines and things like that. This is not, I think there will be times where as part of my job here, I'm going to try and nickel and dime us a little bit and be very sort of, I want to pay attention to the budget. I want to make sure that every dollar is going to the best possible use for students. This is not a time though where I'm planning on sort of cheaping out. I don't think that's been our approach at all. We've invested generously where we think something will benefit our students, and we continue to invest significantly, as we'll see on the next slide, in protection and response directly to the pandemic, just to make sure that our schools are as clean and safe as they possibly can be. I think Trustee Wilson, reminded me of this the other day of, our goal here is student lives are at stake here. So we need to be sure that we're spending everything that we need to in order to ensure safety for our students. At the same time, our funds are limited here. We have $5 million, which is a pretty substantial amount of money to spend. But I also want to make sure that we're investing smart. I want to make sure that in everything that we do, we're investing to have the biggest impact with the dollars that we've been given. And I want to make sure that we're not just investing in things that are addressing short-term needs, but we're also really keeping the long-term in mind here. For example, outdoor classrooms are an interesting way to both provide safe learning spaces for students outside, and also long-term to sort of take advantage of California and San Mateo and East Palo Alto's natural beauty outside, and really find ways to sort of beautify our campus in the long term as well. So we're not just making sort of short-term investments here. I think, the last couple of months have taught us anything. It's really the value of being ready for anything. We don't know what's going to happen in a month. We don't know what's going to happen in 3 months. And I think as we're thinking about ways to invest, we're also being thoughtful about the timing of when we invest and how, so that, even if something seems like a good idea today, that doesn't necessarily mean that we need to put the credit card down and pay for it right away. There are some things that maybe we say, I think that's going to be a good investment, but I think we could wait another month on this to see, let's buy something like that then. I think we're also, given some of the restrictions in the funding here, we're also trying to be thoughtful about what we're paying for with what funds to ensure that we're maximizing the flexibility we have in things like ESSER, GREER, and the REF funds, which have a lot more flexibility than something like, say, LLMF funding, which is a bit more constrained. And where possible, of course, we're always keeping an eye out for the general fund to make sure that we're spending money there as sort of wisely as possible. And finally, it's not always exciting to talk about, but I do want to just sort of name, we want to make sure that we're sticking to budgets and developing processes where we're not just considering one option and it's not, Gina and I in a room where we're just sort of picking and choosing things. We're trying to have, where possible, internal discussions with as broad a group of stakeholders as possible, while still moving as quickly as we can to ensure that we're really reviewing sort of a wide range of spending items and not leaving money on the table. So we want to make sure that we have this money from the federal government, and I plan to spend every single penny of it. It's my goal. May not get there, but I'm going to get really close. And so that's sort of our goal as we're thinking about some of the processes here. So let me tell you a little about what we've actually spent money on, just because I think there's a couple sort of big things here. I don't think there's too many surprises here. Right now, we've allocated about $3.6 million in funds. Some of that is things that we've actually spent on. So some of the technology that Solomon was talking about was purchased through these funds. But there's also things that, as I said, we said, I'd like to buy this, but I'm not ready to put that credit card down just yet. So there's a couple of things that we're sort of waiting on to see. We're anticipating we might want to spend, say, $100,000 on something, but we're going to wait a little bit just to make sure that, we may not need that for 2 months. Let's think about buying that in a month. So we have enough runway, but we're not buying it too early. So again, the big things here: instructional materials and supports, technology, some of that sort of COVID protection and response. Those are PPE, things like that. Professional development. And I also want to highlight, we've given a good chunk of the money back to schools and teachers. That includes giving school leaders about $40,000 for them to spend on curriculum and various supports and things that they need. As well as, and I think this was announced yesterday, REF generously, we worked together with REF to generously have them give $500 directly to teachers through a Donors Choose gift card. And the idea there is, we all need different things, and as our offices are changing, let's give teachers money to spend on what they need, whether that's a chair or a monitor or a stress ball or curriculum or whatever that may be. And so we're really trying to think holistically and sort of big picture about what is it our students need and how can we identify those things. And I think the team did a really good job of outlining sort of the broader logic here. We are paying for it. We've allocated about $3.6 million so far. And we have right now about $1.2 million that's currently unallocated. It doesn't mean we have a much greater total that is unspent, but we've allocated about $1.2 million there of the total $4.8 million. Any questions here or things on some of the specifics here or bigger picture?
Physical help? I don't understand that investment.
Yeah, there's a couple things there. So this is sort of thinking about how are we, this is an allocation that I think directly to an allocation that we're making around sort of wellness checks of, are there ways that we can get staff to sort of put eyes on children just to make sure they're physically doing well, in addition to investments sort of in their social emotional well-being as well. So we've invested in psychologists, CASI counselors, things like that. We put on these funds.
Yeah, I understand the mental component. I guess I was trying to figure out how the physical component plays a part to COVID-19.
Go ahead, Gina.
I was just going to reiterate what you shared, Will, was being able to do those home visits to see if there's any types of supports that we can provide to families, and whether or not it's like, they didn't realize that they can receive meals and have those delivered directly to their home, or if there is a need for additional materials to be sent to the home.
So are you saying you're paying staff to make home visits?
We've set aside some money to explore that as an option. We've heard reports from other places that sadly things like domestic violence have been on the rise here. And I think one thing is it's hard to identify things like that over Zoom potentially. And so we've set aside some money so that if we can, I think it would be good, and I've heard other districts doing this as well, to have an adult from the district try and put eyes from a very safe distance just on students to make sure if they haven't logged on to Zoom for a while, they're doing okay, sort of physically.
How does that work? I mean, if our staff is on the clock, are we double paying them if they do this, or are they doing this because they do this after their regular hours? Okay.
And then also to reiterate that we are able to put our our counselors and other positions and have them be funded from this category.
Okay. Are there other questions here? There's a big investment that we haven't talked about yet, and I'm curious if anyone has any questions on that one. I'm well positioned with the next slide. I'll cut the suspense. So we've allocated here about $750,000 to in-person supports or community learning hubs. As Cindy shared earlier, we've heard from our survey results, and again, we haven't heard from everyone yet, but we have heard from respondents that about 25% of those families are identifying childcare as a major need. An additional 15% are not sure. And as you can see here, that's sort of more true in some of the earlier grades, as you might expect, and a little bit less true in the later grades, as you might expect. overall, based on sort of the data that we've seen so far, I think it's safe to say that about a quarter of our families anticipate significant childcare needs. And I think that means that, based on that rate and based on our district enrollment, we probably need to provide spaces for about 580 children or so, depending on sort of how those not sures end up deciding. Given some of the recent state guidelines that came out earlier this week, you're probably looking at sort of groups of 8, so about 72 groups of 8. So I think it's sort of a clear need, and I think as we're thinking about the budget, part of what we're trying to do here in our sort of fiscal statement of values is really identify ways to address this need. So we've set aside about $750,000 to put towards this, and that $750,000 would not cover the full year. It would just cover sort of up through December 30th, which is when those learning loss mitigation funds would expire. And those learning loss mitigation funds are kind of explicitly targeted towards something like this, although we've been able to use it for other funds as well. So what we've been doing is, and we're still in early stages here, but I wanted to provide you sort of an update since it is a big chunk of money. We're actively working with our partners to provide some kind of childcare opportunities. I think I was very nervous sharing this slide just because there's so many things that we're still working out, but we just wanted to make sure that we identify this is something we're working on and actively exploring, and welcome guidance if you have any at this point. But our sort of early approach and observations are, look, we're only going to use existing partners who know our schools, our kids, our communities. We're not going to run our programs directly. We're going to partner with existing organizations. But we will try and use where possible and where we're not displacing staff for existing, teaching on campus, provide some safe spaces for our children. And of course, as we're doing this, we're going to follow all the local, state, county, and local guidelines. And as I mentioned, the state did release some guidelines specific to this earlier this week. So we're sort of digesting that, working with county council to come up with sort of a robust framework to ensure this could happen. And one other just sort of observation as we've been exploring this with partners is, look, this is going to be something where we want to start with a small pilot and grow it up. We're not going to bring on 580 kids to campuses in 2 weeks or something like that. There's just no way that's realistic, even though that may address the need the community's identified. We don't believe that we could do that safely. So we're going to start small. We're going to try and grow quickly to meet that need. And one thing that I think long-term is nice about an approach like this is as we're doing this in our campuses, it really is going to help, I think, enable a smoother transition to hybrid learning, where we're able to, really get our routines down, our safety procedures down. The students, some of them at least, who are able to participate in this or interested in participating in this, will be able to learn those routines on campus. And we'll end up with sort of a quick, smooth transition, I think, to hybrid learning. And we can talk more about the financials here, but we're not just going to write sort of blank checks to community partners. It'll be something that's much more based on, are you serving Ravenswood kids? How many hours a day are you serving them for? Who are you specifically serving? And we'll do sort of a reimbursement approach based on that as part of a way to sort of incentivize our partners to, as I said, grow quickly to serve the need here while still ensuring that they're doing it safely. Now, there's a whole bunch of open questions. I think I outlined a really broad set of parameters there. And if you have anything specific, I might need to punt on it. I don't know the number of spaces we'll make available in our classroom spaces. We're working on that now. I don't know when we could start. I don't know, the exact site-specific approaches we're going to use. We're obviously going to follow best procedures around hand washing and sort of smooth airflow and good transition and socially distancing and wearing masks and things like that. And I don't know specifically how we're going to enroll students or which students we're going to enroll or target. I just wanted to let you know that we are thinking seriously about this. We're responding, we believe, to a strong community need or a strong community signal. And we're hoping to keep you guys sort of well abreast of our plans here as we move towards this. Any questions on this approach or any other part of the presentation that I can help answer or might be able to help answer in this case?
Is this the end of the presentation or is there another?
This is my last slide. I thought I'd end here just as the place where this is literally, I think, where we are in our process. I think we've made a budget and I think we're here trying to figure this one out. And it's just, it's really hard, to be honest. I think we're all working hard to figure it out.
Okay, well, thank you for this presentation. So the board, any questions or comments?
Through the chair, I have a couple questions. The the first question is there a timeline? Okay, let me get cut to the chase. First, I want to say thank you for your work. And then also, I love that. And then I also love that we're thinking about a community need like childcare and really meeting our neighbors with resources as are necessary. My concern, though, is that I'm thinking of the last presentation and the presentation around the special education numbers and the number of cases, right, and the backlog and all of that. And I'm wondering if we should use, this remaining amount of money to help bring that number down. Maybe it's not necessary. I don't know. I'm just saying, so I'm thinking of a situation like that, which carries some kind of liability, right? Some legal liability. And should we be using this money to get us out of that or to help us provide the services there? You know what I mean? Versus here, even though, yes, childcare is important. I don't want to be misunderstood, but I also understand the implications of liability and special education needs. So that's the big concern. And then the little questions leading to that are, is there a deadline to use the money by? Mm-hmm. And then in your projection of providing childcare with this remaining amount or a portion of the remaining amount, how long would that service last? How long would that money give us for childcare?
These are all fantastic questions. And I just want to start by noting, I think we've all seen the numbers here. And we want to be very, very thoughtful about the procedures that we're putting in place. And there's, literally, I think on our box of priorities, the first one is safety, and that's the right first priority. So we will not do anything that we think jeopardizes our students or our partners as they're operating these programs. I'll answer a couple questions then, and maybe I'll kick it over to you about special ed liability, just on the timeline of the funding. Is that okay, Jen?
Yeah, I was just going to say, did you mention we're funding an additional psychologist to assist with that?
I did. Or I might have. I'm not sure. Would you like to talk more about that?
Oh, no, we just have an additional psychologist in the district to specifically support with the backlog. I do have to say, I would love to hire 5 more, but they are impossible to find. So finding a good qualified psychologist is an incredible challenge, but we did hire an extra with that money specifically for that backlog. Thank you.
Thank you, Jen.
In regards specifically to the funding for the community learning hubs, is that the second part of your question? Before I'll answer that. I'll assume that's the right question. We have $750,000 allocated for that. That funding source could not be used for things like COVID testing or other ways to protect our community. We are actively exploring possibilities like that, both for staff and for students, as well as other things that we may think would help sort of bring down the broader numbers. But the specific sort of learning loss mitigation funds, which is where that $750,000 is coming from, cannot be used for causes like that, unfortunately. Now, in terms of when that funding will run out, I mentioned that it's going to end in December 30th. I think we're all hoping we're back in hybrid learning, or maybe even the pandemic's over by then, but I'm not sure we're willing to bet on that at this point. Our plan, though, is we want to try and fund our partners through the end of December, and we're hoping that they can take the next few months to fundraise from sort of the generous community and their existing donors to help cover any costs beyond that. Now, I mentioned earlier that we are sort of keeping flexibility in mind. And so if they aren't able to fundraise successfully, I think there's other things that we can explore. We've sort of kept a lot of resources sort of flexible intentionally in order to ensure that we have runway if the pandemic is still sort of bad as it is today. Did I hit on all of your questions there, Trustee?
Yes, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? There you go.
I make one just final observation here about sort of the long-term vision here. We are also thinking or beginning to think about, right now there's a lot of federal money going into the district to support directly responding to this pandemic. But I think the implications of this from a learning perspective are going to be sort of long and far-reaching, unfortunately. And so we are thinking about sort of long-term implications on our budget of, can we take some of this money and really think about ways to do recovery in the long term as well. So we're taking both sort of a short-term vision and a long-term vision. We're trying to move reasonably quickly here. So thank you all for your time, and I'll stop sharing.
Thank you. So that was an update, so no action is required. I mean, I'm happy that our partners, before we move on, that our partners are stepping up and trying to help and support in areas that we need, because I strongly continue to see and hear how much of a burden this is for our parents to have kids they're working, not being able to support them in the way that they need, and, you know, kids needing specialized services and not being able to, you know, keep up. So I would love for it to become more than childcare, kind of what you had in one of your bullet points, right? Get our partners to help our students with distance learning in that process, and having someone like, you know, like kind of like a tutoring center, in addition to the other ideas you all have. So thank you for that. And we are going to move to item 10A. Local.
Thank you.
Yes.
This item is consideration to approve the recommendation of our local committee on assignments to assign David Cardenas to teach a Spanish elective at Cesar Chavez Ravenswood Middle School. And under Ed Code 44258, the school district is allowed to establish a local committee on assignments. And this committee can make assignments to teachers outside of the core areas if they have a credential that doesn't necessarily fall into that subject. So since this is a Spanish elective course, we would like the board to approve the ability of David Cardenas to teach this Spanish elective based on his work experience, personal interest, and knowledge of the subject. And additionally, Mr. Cardenas is providing our Spanish interpretation tonight.
Oh, all right.
I'm sorry, I missed that, Tony. What?
He's providing.
Did you miss all of it or just the end?
Yeah, just the end.
Mr. Cardenas is doing the Spanish interpretation for the meeting tonight. Oh, hey, Mr. Cardenas.
Okay, thank you, Tony. Questions or comments from the board for this item? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve item 10A.
Through the chair, I'll make a motion to approve item 10A.
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
President Polito.
Aye.
Vice President Wilson.
Aye.
I believe Trustee Fitch might have needed to leave. Trustee Guyona.
Aye.
Trustee Chabot-Maheen.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. And I guess to Superintendent Sadari's point, apparently Trustee Fitch left the meeting at 9:18 p.m. Reasons unknown. All right, let's go to 10B.
Thank you. This item is to approve the consideration of Mr. Cardenas teaching an assignment of departmentalized social science. And this is also under Ed Code 44258, which allows the board to determine whether or not an individual teacher has the appropriate knowledge to teach a subject that is outside of their traditional credential. So Mr. Cardenas holds a multiple subject credential and not a single subject social science credential. So this would be to approve the assignment of David Cardenas to teach that departmentalized social science based on the subject matter competence being verified by observation.
Right.
So through the chair, let me understand. So he's going to do both things?
That's correct. He'll teach a Spanish elective as well as departmentalized social science. And he'll do this at the middle school where he's teaching the 6th and 7th grade strands of the dual immersion.
Okay.
Any other questions or comments? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve item 10B.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All right, roll call, please.
President Polito,
Aye.
Vice President Wilson,
Aye.
Trustee Guyona,
Aye.
Trustee Shibomihin.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. 10C, Kendra Craig as vice principal.
That's right. So this is the consideration to approve the assignment of Kendra Gregg as vice principal at Cesar Chavez Ravenswood Middle School on the basis of a credential waiver. And this credential waiver would allow Ms. Gregg to pursue her preliminary administrative services credential program tier 1 while concurrently serving as the vice principal at the Ravenswood Middle School.
Is this extension normally for a year, right?
That's correct.
Okay, all right. Any other questions or comments from the board? If there are none, I'll entertain a motion to approve item 10C.
So through the chair,
Mhm.
I'll make the motion that we approve of the assignment.
I'll second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
President Polito,
Aye.
Vice President Wilson,
Yes.
Trustee Guyona,
Aye.
Trustee Shibomihin.
Aye.
All right, motion carries 4-0. We will move to item 10D.
And this item is also a waiver. This is for Angela Frankie to serve as the literacy ELD coordinator on the basis of a credential waiver. And this would allow her to pursue the same tier 1 preliminary administrative services credential while serving as the literacy ELD coordinator. And we need to do this because we recently got some information from the county and they changed the guidance that they had given us previously. So previously we were told that a Title V exception was applicable for coordinators who were serving at the district level as long as they were supporting sites directly. And they have revised that guidance. And the guidance they're now saying is that any coordinator at the district level must hold an administrative services credential. So this waiver would allow Ms. Frankie to serve in the role as a literacy ELD coordinator while pursuing that tier 1 preliminary admin services credential.
Got it. Questions or comments from the board? All right, I'll entertain a motion to approve item 10D.
I'll make that motion.
All right. Okay, thank you. Roll call.
President Polito,
Aye.
Vice President Wilson,
Aye.
Trustee Guyona,
Aye.
Trustee Shibomihin.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-0. That takes us to item 10E.
And this item is very similar to the item I just presented. This is for Nico Janik to serve as the STEM coordinator on the basis of a credential waiver for the same reasons as Angela Frankie, the changes in the guidance from the county. So this would allow her to concurrently serve as the STEM coordinator while pursuing her tier 1 preliminary services admin credential.
The only question I have about this, hasn't she been the STEM coordinator for some time?
She has, yeah, so 6 years. And we had her under the Title V exception, which is what the county had advised was applicable for a coordinator who was based at the district office, but supporting at school sites. And so 2 weeks ago, we had a meeting with the county credential office, and they revised that guidance and said that they do not believe that Title V is an applicable exception unless the coordinators are specifically serving one school site and are based at that school site.
Okay. Other questions or comments regarding this item? There are none. I'll entertain a motion to approve 10E.
I make a motion to approve 10E.
I second.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
President Polito,
Aye.
Vice President Wilson,
Aye.
Trustee Guyona,
Aye.
Trustee Shibomihin.
Aye.
All right, motion carries 4-0. That leads us to 11A. Everyone was present, even though we had someone drop off. And then 11B, board communication reports. Does anyone have anything they'd like to report out?
So through the chair,
Yeah.
yes. I would like to not so much a report out other than the fact, well, I guess it is a report out. So the recent information about the COVID positivity rates in East Palo Alto is that we are well over 700 people that tested positive here. And it raises a lot of concern on my part. Well, I think on all of our parts, because it's well over the percentage rate of any other, well, almost any other city in this county. And I would like to reach out to the city to have a discussion with them about coming up with a joint plan for how do we contain this, because at this rate, we won't be able to open up our schools for a long, long, long time. And I would also like to let them know what it is that we are in the process of doing in terms of providing childcare, et cetera, that kind of thing. So that's
so that's really concerning to me, and I think you brought this up to me a couple days ago or last week. And one thing I was thinking of doing is writing a letter from our board and our leadership to the city council, to city manager, and saying, hey, we need to partner together, right? How are we going to address this? Not allowing kids to go back to school, yet every other function of the city is happening mostly. It's just, I don't think it's acceptable. I think we really need to meet and strategize on what are we going to do collectively as a community to bring these numbers down as much as possible, and make sure our students have a pathway back to school, back to on-campus instruction, which is what they critically need. That's kind of where our conversation left off, and I don't know if the rest of the board has any other comments in regards to that. And if not, then, you know, be on standby. We'll be looping you all into any communication we send out. And it'd be great if we can schedule a meeting, Superintendent Sidaria, with the city about this. It's just, well, I mean, stresses me out to think that we're not really working together to address this issue. I mean, one of the biggest indicators to breaking the cycle of poverty and everything else, I strongly believe, continues to be education. Us not being able to properly serve our students and having them be further behind because this model doesn't fully meet their needs. Like, it's not just a today problem. It's something that's going to affect them for the rest of their lives and potentially prevent them from reaching their academic goals. Okay, so we know by the third grade, if you're not, you know, up to par with literacy, it's a challenge all the way through. Now imagine adding all these other components to the components we're already dealing with. I think this is a state of emergency as far as education is concerned for our students. This education is what I continue to believe is critical to breaking the cycle. You get opportunities to make choices for your life that are different than your environment or your circumstances. So I'm very passionate, Trustee Wilson, about joining you and reaching out and seeing what immediate action we can take collectively to address this. I just don't find it acceptable. I really don't.
And that made me wonder, actually, do we know what the charter schools are doing?
In regards to, they're providing distance learning.
Right, well,
and
that's what I mean. I don't know. So
no, they are, yeah.
As well.
So as the oversight, Cindy Chin, our Student Services Director, has been in close contact with both Aspire and KIPP to ensure that we were informed about what their plan was, and they're doing distance learning currently.
Okay.
I did want to let you know that the city manager of East Palo Alto did reach out to ask for our recovery plan to be included in their containment strategy plan. I believe is on their website, and I did share also with both city mayors of our plan to explore how we can provide childcare supervision to help facilitate the learning at our sites. But I'm happy to also schedule a meeting between the district and the city.
Yeah, and I like the way Trustee Polito put it, is that so that we can develop a pathway back to school for these kids. You know, because that's the thing. 700 cases in the community, you know, it's only going up and up.
Right.
You know, so we have to do something. as a community.
Absolutely. Thank you, Trustee Wilson, for that report. Any other board members or trustees would like to give a report out? Trustee Juana Mendoza.
You know, it is really ugly, and I really worry when there is no social distancing, because that's a big part of it, that sometimes we don't take it serious. I see, you know, kids playing in the neighborhood. It's just as if nothing happened. One thing that probably, you know, needs my thinking, you know, all those demonstrations that happened, all those gatherings, it was impossible to keep social distancing. Sometimes there are parties here in my neighborhood, and I go, oh my God, they're dancing together, they're enjoying. It's like they forgot completely what's going on. And it's not just that they get sick, we're spreading it around. So it will be great if the city can join forces and we can work together. But also, I want to comment, I noticed that they show us just right now a picture where all the teachers, they are wearing a mask, but there's no social distancing. And you go to the store, even if you have a mask, they keep you separate. They have the spots where you need to be. And seeing this picture, it kind of worries me, because we're sending another message to the students that it is okay when you wear a mask to be together. Even for a picture, I'm sorry, but keep your distance. Show the students we need to be models, and we're not really being by doing that. Just think that we need to remind everybody, social distance, social distance. At my school, there is somebody going around to remind us about the social distance. You gotta be here. We are working 3 in a room. One is in that corner, the other one here, the other one here, and we wear the mask. My 2 aides and myself, we can't be close together, and there is constant supervision. Imagine if the principal see us taking a picture, a bunch of us together. We will be in big trouble. And besides the principal, there are other people who are, you know, keeping an eye, wear the mask, don't take it off, you know, remember your distancing. So we need to keep remembering that's very important. It's just a reminder, be models for the students.
Thank you, Trustee Gaona. All right, I think those are all the board communications report. Our next regular board meeting will be September 10th, and we will adjourn this meeting at 9:32 p.m. Thank you for joining us, and have a great evening or night.
Good night.
Bye. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.
Bye.
Bye, Tam. Bye, Sherry.
Stay safe.
Thank you. And thank you for everything.
Welcome. Thank you.
You guys are
Mr.
awesome.
Cárdenas.
Thanks.
Gracias.
Thanks, David. Gracias. Thanks, Gina.
Good job, you guys. Yay, Delma.
Hey, Delma.